Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Agustin Ferreira here, and he is the founder of Neurona, which is an AI community down here in Buenos Aires. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you doing? Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yep. I'm so excited to talk about AI, but also crypto, because you've been in crypto for a long time as well. Can you, I was in Silicon Valley in 2017 and saw that rise of sort of it made the jump from these really autistic Bitcoin guys to like the whole tech system. It wasn't like Bitcoin wasn't really like it was growing, but it wasn't really big. And then 2017 was like, okay, now retail is coming in, but it's like early adopter retail. So that the kind of tech people like me, I imagine people like you. What was going on in Argentina during that time in 2017?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that we all, saw what happened with the smart contracts and everything, and I think that was the right time when retail got in. In Argentina, we were getting out of, you know, uh, many crises, I would say. And I mean, like crypto in general was already a thing here in Argentina. There were a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts, people that they were already talking about Bitcoin.
Mm.
Then we started to hear about smart contracts. I think before, Ethereum, there were some other projects that they really tried to make that happen. But Ethereum was the first one that really hit the nail on the head. Um, Me personally being, involved in crypto since college, I was already involved in Bitcoin, but I heard about Ethereum and everything that was happening there, and I saw that as a really great opportunity to find a way out of our economic system and all the things that happen there. So that's at least personally where I got involved in the whole, Ethereum community at first, and then well, the larger community. I was already somehow involved in Bitcoin, and I think that a lot of people like myself, young people, that they were getting out of college and they were trying to find a way to progress on their, career. They find an opportunity. They find a space that was really tailored to the needs that we were having back in the day, right? Like, um, you living now in Argentina, probably you heard about everything that has to do with our economic system and the problems that we face. And as a young kid that was experience of their parents, living in Argentina with all the crises, the Corralito, that was a big thing in 2001 here in Argentina. The opportunity was, like a big opportunity, a big shot. And I think that from what happened and seeing all these crazy projects being born from here, it was an amazing opportunity.
So I was walking around yesterday, and I've seen it many times here in Buenos Aires. A Shiba Inu emu. Do you know if the Shiba Inu meme token comes from Argentina? Did that come from here?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think that the Shiba Inu token comes from a famous dog that is
Okay.
kind of a meme.
Uh,
Actually, I got to know the real dog in real life back in 2018, I think, in DevCon, Japan. The owner of the dog came to DevCon with the dog, and everyone was there. Even Vitalik was having fun with the dog. So yeah, it was a really good time, and yeah, I think it comes from there.
Okay, because I've just seen so many in Buenos Aires, and I was like, okay, because I imagine there are a lot of teams like yeah the Decentraland team, the Claros team. There's a lot of Argentines who are building decentralized protocols, and you talked about the Corralito, and it seems like a very direct relationship between the Corralito. We had our own Corralito in the United States with FDR with gold in 1932 where the government came in and tried to get all the gold, and they actually started to send Treasury Department people to go and like find people's gold. But it's lost to most of our memory in the United States. But Argentina, same situation. It feels like very, very similar situation where the government was just like, okay, well, we got to do this, and then a huge loss of trust. And it just feels like Argentines understand why you want decentralization, and it feels like that's going to merge into really useful crypto products in ways that I don't think we as Americans understand. We as U.S. citizens kind of understand that the financial system, we understand speculation. So we understand financial products. We understand derivatives. We understand like how you make bets on, gold or all these different things. But Argentines understand like this other thing. Is that right? Is that an accurate representation of what's going on here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that at least my generation completely lost trust in pesos, in Argentine pesos. And since early age, we've been encouraged to store
Mm,
dollars instead of
mm,
pesos, and to have our savings in dollars. That's the standard norm here. So coming from there, and being young and being full of ideas and dreams, it was a no-brainer to just hey, let's try to innovate here on this space, the decentralized web, and the decentralized economic system. I think it's as you said, maybe in other countries where the economic system really works, it's not a problem, right? At least you have your savings, you trust in the bank. You will go there and you will find your money. And inflation and other economic like phenomena are not a thing as they are here in Argentina. Also, corruption is not a thing, or at least not as huge as it is here in Argentina or in Latin America, I would argue. Um, yeah, everything boils down to the fact that there is a huge opportunity on how can we bring this into our day-to-day lives. So that was the challenge. And I remember back in 2017 and 18, we started with the Ethereum community. It was one of the first, Web3 smart contracts community down here. At the very beginning, we were just, a couple of guys getting involved somehow in the industry because we were somehow already doing things with the technology. A few friends, they were building systems in the Bitcoin space. And it was crazy to see, the interest, huge interest from, uh, people getting out of college, or even, like people that it was their first time, getting their hands into something like, Ethereum or other, tokens. The need was real. The need for being able to have something like a stable coin
mm,
or the value where they can get a yield out of the money that they hold. That was something that wasn't possible, not only because of the no trust in the Argentine pesos, but also because the inflation and because of the bureaucracy
mm,
in the system. Like we need to understand the other thing that I have to say here is like um, there's a huge part of the Argentine population that they don't really have access to the bank,
mm, mm,
and
mm,
and, and now there is a decentralized solution, a decentralized alternative that gives an alternative to being able to hold something like USDT. So I saw a lot of young kids, uh, maybe not favor kids in terms of from economics perspective, being able to work online, be able to be paid in
mm,
stable coin, be able to save money. It was a really big change for Argentines, and I would argue also in Latin America as a whole.
mm. And particularly in Argentina, it seems like that, and that feels like a good sort of a resume, sort of summary of what happened in 2017, 2018. Was it really was the invention, not the invention because they invented it a few earlier years earlier, but the sort of the creation of a way that you can do a smart contract, and so you can have basically, this is a good question for me. I've never really thought, I mean, I've thought a lot about smart contracts. At that time, there were a lot of decentralized applications, D-apps, and I was really interested in what a D-app was. It feels like there's not many D-apps now, but that original innovation was about a smart contract. What is a smart contract? Because it's just like for DAI. That's what a smart contract allowed for DAI, right? It allowed for a programmatic, decentralized way to do what? I'm missing something about what those smart contracts did and do right now.
Yeah, totally. So, smart contract is a way in which we can imprint certain rules
Mm,
and ensure that there no other no single entity that can modify the rules that we imprint in
interesting.
the contract. That runs in a decentralized way. So there won't be a bank, there won't be like a government, there won't be anyone that comes in and be able to modify the logic that we've been able to imprint there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it brought the immutability because Bitcoin is essentially a immutable ledger where you can't change the debit and the credit from one person to another, the peer-to-peer thing. What you just explained is a way to do that in a way that is a contract programmatically between two parties to have more like
Surface.
more like ways to do that, more things that you can add to that contract, basically, besides just a simple you transferred me this, you transferred me this, and at this date and at that thing with all these different things. That's what it does, right?
Yeah, exactly. Bitcoin, I think well, I'm not saying something new, right? But
Mm.
the way in which Bitcoin was born was super clever, right?
Yeah.
Like the second layer is so thin, but it has a purpose, right? The purpose is like this is something that won't be broken,
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
and I think that also gave opportunity for smart contracts for like a new scripting layer where people could create these smart contracts, this immutable logic there
Mm. Immutable logic. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that enables new use cases, right?
So
That's the thing.
yeah, and this is the perfect segue into AI because now we have not only deterministic processes, which is, all of computers for the past 30 or 40 years have been about deterministic programs. You put something in, you get something out. And there's bugs along the way, but generally you understand what you're getting out of it. And then we have smart contracts, which take that determinism. With Bitcoin, it's a simple transfer over between two people. And then with Ethereum, we got the smart contracts, as we've been talking about. But that's not only deterministic, but it's deterministic and it's decentralized. So it's not. So there's only two parties. We as individuals don't need the government to come in and say you guys need to do this according to this thing. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. It allowed for civilization to kind of manage all these contracts to have the government as a third party. But had a lot of challenges over the last 10 years, 20 years in Argentina, and also in the United States. It's becoming clearer and clearer, from my understanding, that similar things are happening there. And so now we've got this technology system that allows you and me to create a contract, totally anonymous, although maybe it's not anonymous. That's a good question for you. But then now we've got AI coming into the picture. AI will somehow interact with what I just described, but it adds a probabilistic layer. So it adds this layer of like, you don't know what you're getting out. There are agents. Agents are going to be able to navigate the crypto world. I tried to create an NFT for a talk I gave a couple weeks ago, and it was really hard. It was like it was not a simple thing to go into OpenSea and create an NFT. Like it was a very challenging thing. It was really funny because I got into the website and they gave me two different options, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I've been thinking about this for a long time. Like AI is going to allow us to choose our own adventure inside of a website. And so that was really cool. And then I entered the site and I was like, I have no idea how this UI works to set up an NFT. Like it's really complicated. And so AI is going to gonna change a lot of that because I think AI is gonna do most of the things behind the scenes, like with the wallet addresses and all these different things, like set up perfectly for agents. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that fundamentally, we've been having a UX problem in the whole crypto space.
Yeah.
That's been happening for a while now. I think that it's pretty harsh to
And
think or to take from someone getting into the system to
yeah,
be able to understand all this Web3 jargon.
yeah,
Like fees, I don't know, mempool,
yeah.
transaction, blockchain.
Lots of
Well,
jargon.
you name it, right? Like it's amazing, but it's not the same. Like we use, like the telephone, and we are able to call anyone in the whole world, and we don't really know about the protocols that are being built behind it. And what is happening right now is like we're in a space in time where the technology is so new, the paradigm shift is so big that it's not easy to explain to your mother, to the father, to anyone that is inside of the, like the tech space, how to use these tools. They are amazing tools, but it's a, pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Sorry for
No, no, no. It's great.
that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as you said, I think that there's an opportunity. That's the first thing to say. And I somehow envision the future, I see that there will be a huge part of the mempool controlled by agents, by programmatic agents and agentic workflows that will be handling, transactions here and there. And we are seeing a huge amount of new projects getting launched, like with new UX wallets, like with new wallets
What's
for
what?
you.
Do you have an example I could go look up later on for UX
I
wallets?
heard, yeah, totally. I heard about a project. I went to HCC
Uh,
last month, and I heard about a project called Gina.
Gina.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. Let me just double check that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gina Wallet. Yeah, right, right.
Ask
Gina.
Gina. No.
Uh,
How do you spell it?
Gin. No, Gina. Let me just double check
Sure,
that
sure, sure,
because
sure.
yeah, I don't want to say something that. But yeah, the thing is, there are many projects that they are launching their UX wallets.
Mm.
I'm also using um, wallets that helps in the whole process of investing money. For example, I'm using a tool called Gigabrain that helps me with investments
Oh, interesting.
and choosing, where to put positions, and I'm doing a little bit of day trading just as
Oh,
fun.
interesting. Okay.
It works on top of Hyperliquid.
Okay.
Um, uh, Basically, it's digesting a huge amount of information and based on my risk profile,
Interesting.
helping me to decide where to invest money and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's clear that the UX
Mm.
it's a big problem, and all these technicalities are here to stay. Like those are things that we've been trying to improve, and there are many of them that's been improved over the years. But the thing is, like, we need a layer that simplifies the whole UX and makes it super clear to anyone that wants to get into crypto on how to invest, how to trade money. If I want to send money to you, and I have my money in a different chain, I want it to be super simple. I don't want to go to a bridge and do all the connection and whatever, all this technical nonsense that
Complicated. I've tried that a couple times. It's just like it's so crazy to try to.
crazy, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh,
How do you explain? How do you explain a normal user that you have to pay, fees here and there and in different, like tokens?
that was the so once I tried to get the NFT, I tried to get the NFT, but then I failed. Well, I think I failed. I'm not sure. It was very unclear as to whether I actually minted the NFT. And then I was like, okay, I can't figure out what I did on OpenSea, so I'm going to go try to use a different thing. Maybe it was even on OpenSea. So then AI told me to go get Polygon, and so then I got Polygon on Coinbase, And I went into Coinbase, and there were like 7 different polygons. So because they got the logo of the polygon, and then inside the logo they have another little tiny logo about what chain it's on. And so then I have to figure out, well, what chain do I need to buy, and then how do I send that to somewhere else? And I ended up buying like 5 different versions of Polygon, like $10 each, to try to like get the right Polygon so that I could send it to another wallet, and it's like that complexity is really strange. And I'm at like, I was complaining a lot about it on Twitter when I was going through it, but I imagine that there's a reason for that. And I think you probably know this, like why, because I hear, and it does hyperliquid. I saw a crazy thing about hyperliquid a couple days ago, that somebody used it to buy to bridge 2 billion or $4 billion from Bitcoin into Ethereum. Like, like why technically is that exists, that this bridging thing, and like having to get the right token on the right chain?
I'm not aware of the details there, like
Mm.
of that specific trade there. But yeah, whenever you have a breach, you have to lock tokens somewhere, and then you have to mint new tokens in this new chain. And that's basically you are creating a new token, a new representation of the token that is being locked on a different chain, right? So what you're basically doing is you're locking token somewhere, and you are creating a representation in a new chain, right? Um, that creates a whole new set of problems, because you need validators to make sure that tokens are locked here, the transaction is confirmed, everything is in place, there's no cheating here, right?
Yeah.
And then whenever that's okay, you are creating new tokens somewhere else, right? So yeah, that's the thing, right? That's how
And
it
that has to exist.
basically.
That's not because of, that is because of the decentralized, trustless environment, that needs to happen. Is the representation of different tokens, and it's almost like the inter blockchain, because there's one, Solana blockchain, you have Ethereum blockchain, and there's you're trading invisible value, but you need to get it on both chains. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And another way to do it is having a third party that
Oh,
can, somehow the intermediate between, the two chains, and kind of holding or doing the
that
escrow.
is that Hyperliquid?
No, 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 no. I mean, most of the chains works, like having a set of um, what do you call it? Validators that they validate between one
Uh,
chain and the other.
mhm.
Then you have some things like restaking, like the Egan layer guys that they are trying to basically, when you stake, money, you start your ETH in Ethereum for the proof of stake. You could also use that stake for validating other chains and other bridges.
Oh,
So
whoa.
you have, yeah.
So
So
yeah,
yeah,
it feels like it's going to go away. It feels like, if it feels like, based on what you just said, it feels like crypto itself will never be seen by most people who use it.
hopefully.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean that's what we are aiming for, right?
yeah,
Like there is
yeah.
a
Interesting.
famous quote that says something like any sufficient advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what
So
does the magic look like then in that scenario? Like 5 to 10 years down the line, it's kind of making me think that, man, it's almost like our current financial system. Because I have this question that I keep on coming back to, is like, what can I trade on? Because I'll give a little explanation of all of my research I've done in the last year about financial markets. Like, in the 1970s, we had the oil shock, which really changed the United States. We had Nixon make the final thing that FDR did. FDR removed convertibility from the dollar for normal citizens to the gold. And then Nixon came in 1971. The French sent warboats to pick up their gold, and then Nixon was like, "Okay, no, we're not allowing you to do that anymore." I'm not getting this story totally straight, so please fact check me, listeners. But Nixon made the final irrevocable disconnection between gold and USD, all due to energy craziness. And then 1980s. the United States basically did the same thing that the UK did, where they financialized their entire economy. We financialized our entire economy, and so you had a lot more speculation, a lot less productive debt, so a lot less production going into factories. We moved all the factories to China and Taiwan, all these different things. But that financialization of the economy is really interesting because it did a lot of things. And one of the things is you can bet on anything. So you can bet on corn, you can bet on all these commodities, you can bet on other currencies, you can do futures, you can do all these different things. And so that feels like what we were just talking about crypto is that the same thing is going to happen there, and it's going to be invisible in the same way that it's mostly invisible to people who aren't interested in it. And so then the same thing's going to happen in crypto. Do you think TradFi and DeFi are just basically going to merge? Like, do you think all the ideology that we have about the decentralization, like, do you think the ideology is going to actually like mean anything?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I have really strong thoughts there. Like being, part of this community since the early beginning, I've seen, like all these people really trying to achieve, like a really decentralized future. And what I'm seeing right now in general is I'm seeing a lot of TradFi coming into crypto. Super good one side, right? But at the same time, there are many principles and core values that are being lost in the process. So on one side, I'm super happy that this is happening, and there's a lot of interest. Well, I think that you, I mean, this is an interesting conversation. You just mentioned, factories driven out of, the US, and now there's a different situation in the US
Yeah,
where
yeah.
the US are
Trying to
trying,
get it back. Trying to get it
yeah,
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and well, that's a huge topic to discuss
yeah.
that has to do with the de-dollarization of the US economy and how, the Trump administration is trying to find a way to sell in some way, the debt that the
Yes,
fiscal
yeah. I've seen. Yeah,
and stable coins and in general crypto will play a big role in that, right? For what we are seeing and probably we will see over the next couple of months, um, it's going to be huge. And I think, and I've been, having conversations with different friends. They are really into, the financial system there and the TradFi in general. Like, um, we will see a spike in DeFi services and DeFi products and everything that has to do with the financial system. Uh,
mm.
New iteration, right? Like multiplied by many factors, I could say, in the yeah DeFi ecosystem, driven by the U.S. Interest and the U.S. Companies using crypto as a whole. So yeah, hopefully what we will see is the whole industry, whole way more mature industry in general.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity there,
Mm.
uh, a spike in the amount of projects that will be born in the whole DeFi space.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the next couple of months, I would say, yeah, probably October,
Yeah.
November, December, a huge spike in the crypto markets.
Yeah. Okay.
Both in and price.
So yeah, really interesting territory we're getting into now. There's so I'm like you. I'm very interested in the values that the industry started with. That's the main thing that got me into it. Um, there's the but there's also the fact that the internet itself. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with the internet because Web 2.0 for me, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I grew up around a lot of the early people who were talking about a free and open internet, particularly in the 90s. And there's a really beautiful time where in the 90s, the United States had this sort of enlightened government, the last bit of enlightened government where they actually like built this infrastructure to allow anybody in the world to decentralize the whole internet. The internet was a decentralized thing. Then starting in 2005, 2006, the invention of the mobile phone, social networks. They created walled gardens, and that's the Web 2.0. And then in 2020, in my perspective, we essentially saw this really intense leveraging of power the, based on the fact of the walled gardens. And that's where it really became clear to me that we need to build outside of walled gardens. Now AI comes into the picture, and it feels like a very like not shared opinion, and maybe it's just my eternal optimism, but it feels like AI will actually lead to decentralization. That yes, right now all the foundational models are getting centralized, all the agents are going to be centralized. And you have China coming out of nowhere, dropping these giant open source models that like it feels like open source is the future, even though every single foundational model is now centralizing and also being closed source. Meta recently changed their perspective, blamed it on open source. Really, it was decision making on their part, but they're choosing to blame it on open source. And so now, like, we're in a strange situation where my former home is now the main supplier of closed source models, whereas China, this Chinese Communist Party, is now the open source beacon of the future, which is really crazy. But it feels like I'm going to go set up my server for the first time on my Raspberry Pi, and so I'm going to go back to Web 1.0 and kind of play around with that to see what goes on there. But it does feel like, regardless of the money coming in and regardless of all these things, like if somebody does have the intention and the will to build something decentralized, peer to peer, it's all there. Yeah, maybe we won't have mainstream usage from the population at large. Do you think that matters, whether we have mainstream usage? Like, if we just continue to build these things, doesn't that matter more?
I mean, providing an alternative and having a different way to do things that is not the standard government control way is important. Like, uh, we've seen different technologies that they are success cases, like say right now in our world today. And I could argue that, yeah, I could argue that to some extent, AI will be a huge booster for the decentralized technology.
Mm.
And there probably AGI, I would say. That
Interesting.
um, there are many reasons there. Um, but one of the topics related to this, and I think that's one of the biggest topics, has to do with data privacy and data surveillance
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it comes to
yeah,
AI.
yeah.
Like the real motivation behind building decentralized systems, at least in my way of seeing things, has to do with the fact that our data is being
Mm, mm.
weaponized,
Yeah, yeah. Harvested and weaponized. Yep,
and it's being weaponized
yeah,
in ways that is being weaponized even against us.
yep.
Society, polarization. There are many things happening there, um, and I think that to some extent, AI will really boost or will expedite the whole process.
Mm,
And, and yeah,
mm,
call it psyops or call it,
mm,
like manipulation,
mm.
you know, like that's really happening. And we've seen, situations happening around, elections.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that we haven't seen much of it yet, but we will see a bunch of it, especially now that we are seeing, things like geo, like from SEO, to geo and how the generative and engine optimization that is basically the evolution from SEO
Oh,
in
EO?
LLM. When you ask an LLM, you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, which is the best
Yeah.
Twitter to wear whenever I'm traveling to whatever, and the whole ad system and how we get informed and how uh, the whole system in general is being
Redrawn.
trans
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. What I want to arrive there is like all the information and all the digital footprints that we leave whenever we are searching for information, in the internet, that's being somehow used to sell us things and also to weaponize, against political
Mhm.
uh, positions and things and the way in which we consider the world and the lenses in which we see the world in general.
Mhm.
And what I mean like that is like we are starting, as a whole to get to the point where we understand that this is happening, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's the exact moment where decentralized alternatives, uh, technology that really considers, the data privacy, and has that, as a core principle is going to be something super important. I
Mhm.
mean, Telegram is a good example of that, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Obviously, this is still the early days. I mean, I wouldn't say the early days because there are many pioneers that they've been doing this for many, many years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like people are starting to understand that this is important. Again, coming back to the conversation that we were having before, in regards to crypto and the Web3 jargon and everything that has to do with the technicalities, it's not. Yeah, it's not real that we can ask normal people that they are not in the technical jargon and the technical stuff to understand this uh, without things happening in the real world that makes them consider like use this new technology, but it's happening. It will be happening in the next few years, and hopefully people will consider the way in which they use technology, and decentralized systems have a better position in general.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. There's so much there to respond to. So the I see social networks are feel like they're collapsing. Like there's this sense living through 2005 to 2020 felt like, well, it's a principle of the universe that we all go to the same network and that we have a network effect for this giant social media company. I don't think that that's a principle of the universe. I think that's a principle of the time in which we had, where we had radio and TV essentially bringing a bunch of attention to of the same people to the same spot. And it feels like Twitter kind of is the last. It feels like Twitter's the last giant social network. Like Facebook, they've made it clear they want to create AI generated content. Like that's where they're headed, is to kind of create this like playground of like illusion, basically. They have WhatsApp, so I'm not saying that they're totally out of it. And I think WhatsApp and group chats are going to be really important. But it's not the same thing. You don't have an algorithm in the way between a group and a human people with a WhatsApp group. And so you have Twitter feels like the last social network. You've got a bunch of Substacks that are growing. And so it feels like that's all going to change a lot. And that feels like much more decentralized. There's Farcaster, there's all these different things. Do you agree with that? Do you agree, or do you disagree with the fact that with the idea that there is going to be, if Twitter kind of slows down or something like that, that's going to be the last social network. What do you think?
Um, I'm not sure. I couldn't say that that's the case. Like I could argue that I mean like social networks. We've been involved with social networks since we've been social, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
interesting.
so probably it will take a different it will take a different form, but it will be the same, like connecting with people and the people that we are attracted to, or the people that is meaningful to us, right?
Yeah,
The problem is that right now everything is so fucked up and
yeah,
everything is like a psyops,
yeah,
general
yeah,
psyops in general. that you're playing a game and it's, like, I don't know, here in Argentina, like espejitos de colores, which means that well, it has a English term. Anyways, it's like, um, it's fantasy, right? It's
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Beautiful life in Instagram, you're having a beautiful life in whatever, and that's not real, right? So yeah, I'm way more
Yeah.
connected to getting off of all these platforms or not
Mhm.
using. I have a small child, and I'm
Mm.
starting to go through the journey of having to somehow, yeah, help in the process of being part of a society, helping him being part of a society in which all these things are happening, and there's so much stuff happening on these social networks. So hopefully the world in which we are heading into is a world where we are way more conscious about the type of social networks that we create,
Yeah.
and where yeah, I think it's one of the biggest problems of hypercapitalism,
Yeah.
in general, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're so much involved in that shit whole loop
Yeah.
that
The
there's no
market,
way out, right?
the market forces. It's so interesting. The market. Somebody, I've been having these great conversations with people recently about how like so Adam Smith basically create Adam Smith was under the Christian tradition. He was a Christian and he believed in God and he had all these spiritual aspects to it. And so he created this sort of system, or he identified a system that existed, but it wasn't like it was a very important book that it described a lot of the things that were going on. But it was like you still had the church and you still had all these things that kind of helped with the society and everything like that. And then somehow it became so powerful. The markets became so powerful as a philosophical thing. Like then you have people like Steven Pinker, who part of the rationalists, like they actually tried to do thought experiments where they treated the supply chain and the markets as God. And it's not the same thing, right? It's like it appears to be the same thing from our perspective, but it feels really difficult. And I think we're at the tail end of it. I'm actually really optimistic, but as I said, I'm a eternal optimist. So I think that like, but that like I think where we're headed is actually really good, and I think culture itself is fragmenting. So I think culture itself is becoming decentralized, and I think that's going to intertwine with what we've been talking about with all these technologies, and I think that's going to be where the decentralization comes in. I think there is a lot of TradFi money into it, but I think the TradFi thing is like it feels like it's all going back to that productive money versus speculative money. It's all speculative money, and it's all like fake. It's all like what you just said with Corralitos. What was that word that you used? No, not the Corralito. The
Espejitos,
yes, that
colores.
one. Yeah, it feels like that. That's that too. And I feel like it doesn't feel like it's going to collapse in a Great Depression way, but it feels like it's going to collapse in a like, oh well, it's just kind of like not really meaningful. Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe that's too optimistic, copium. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have anything. I've kind of lost the train of thought. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, no. I think that things fall by their own weight,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And what we are seeing here is like so much of our whole system has become way more of a religion.
Yeah.
To your point,
Yeah. Interesting.
like right now, it's way more of a religion than an economic system.
Yeah.
Yeah, for so many people, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and we have forgot about the journey that really matters.
Yeah.
And for me, at least for me, that's the internal journey,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Uh, the journey of getting to know yourself
Yeah.
and really understand your existence, in this whole universe, and we have completely lost sight on that, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges for the for here, for the West in general, right? For um so. yeah, hopefully coming back to the main conversation in regards to the social
Yeah.
networks and the way in which we connect in this new with these new technologies that we are building. Hopefully, we can build technology that are more real to us human beings, right?
Mm.
And
Yep.
they take into account other things, right? Not just these fake posts that
Yeah.
we are all into.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, like Instagram, you
Yeah.
name it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all of them, they have a different post, right? And I don't know. I feel like weird, like person there. I mean, obviously, I'm also part of the society
Yeah.
and all this, right? But um, yeah, I've been considering, just getting off the grid completely. Not only from the social, networks, but also in general.
Mm.
Um, but anyways, that's more of a philosophical um, conversation. Hopefully, we can find ways to connect more with other human beings.
And like that, everything I've seen will take about 5 or 10 more minutes, but everything I've seen so far about AI has led me to what you just said about like building tools. Like now I have this ability. You can already build programs and tools and everything like that. I believe you're technical. You've been doing a lot of those things for a long time. Now I have this power, and everything I've built so far has been removing myself from. And I'll give you a very direct example of this. I haven't built this yet, but I've been thinking a lot about it. I want to do the same thing you do, which or you're thinking about, which is getting myself off of the grid. But at the same time, I have this podcast, and I want to share this podcast. And so, part of being on a podcast is being on all the different social networks. And so, I've been doing a lot of investigation of what it would take to not have me post, but having somebody I work for enter my social media accounts, and I'll maybe you've already looked into this, but they make it really hard to do that. Facebook makes it really hard for me to have someone else be my agent. And why do they do that? Well, because they want my attention. They want my attention to be trapped in their system, and it's like so gnarly the that incentive there, and so they're trying to trap my attention. But there are ways to build it, and AI gave me sort of like a pathway I could do it, and then somebody else came in and told me how I could get. There's like a multi-login browser, so there's like an app that takes a lot of that and like pretends to be an IP address, and then I have my Raspberry Pi. So there's all these technical things that are now like wide open for me, who's not necessarily a programmer, but a technologist who understands all these pathways. So that really does feel like where we're headed, where it's like if you want out of the system and you have enough energy and resources, you can build your way out of the system. But most people aren't going to do that. But that's just like human nature. I think. Like I don't think that's any different than the past. But I'm really optimistic about that part, and I think I'm actually really optimistic about the what like the potential for where we're going, and that brings in the physical off the grid as well. I think the physical off the grid, and I've done some experiments on it already. It's like that's coming. That's about to be possible as well. Like, solar power in nature, growing your own food, or like networks of people doing that type of thing. Like, I think that's all coming really, really soon. Not really soon, but it's coming. So yeah.
Hopefully, I
Mm.
mean, as you say, we now have the technology, and I think that we are becoming. This is obvious, right? But we are becoming a way more conscious,
Mm.
um, animal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And probably, well, I've been thinking a lot about this, but space exploration and everything that comes with that will be huge.
Yes.
Like I've been thinking a lot about this because of my child, right?
Mm.
Like it's going to happen over the next 50 years, right?
Mm.
Like everything that will happen with generative AI, and there will be a lot of answers to
Mm.
things that um, that we've been challenged to solve for many many years, and we didn't have the tools, and now we have the tools. So AI is amazing, and the technology is amazing. I will kind of shift away from the current topic, but I just want to mention this. Like I've been working for many years in the metaverse space, right?
Mm. 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 Interesting.
And I think that's an interesting thing to mention in this whole conversation, right? Like the metaverse,
Yeah.
right? The narrative and the general opinion is really bad, but the truth is that it will be a transformative technology, and it will happen, right?
Mm.
Like the throughput, in terms of data and human data that can be transmitted via the metaverse, is way higher than what we currently have, right? Like having this conversation with you, via Zoom call or whatever, instead, compared to having this in the metaverse where you can see my eye, you can. There's a big part of our brain, like a old part of our brain that is uh, connected to connect with another human being and to process that information in a human via human lens, right? And yeah, it's crazy that the technology that somehow gives us, the opportunity to connect more as humans and be able to challenge, our own biological, traps or like deficiencies, I would say to some extent, is also the one that is getting trapped into this, like this mind loop or this mind trap, right?
Mm.
Like, so
Mm.
yeah,
That's a really
technology.
good.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, because it's really interesting to think about that, given what I just said about Facebook and Zuckerberg, because they've obviously made attempts to do that, and man, I would never join an attempt from them to do that, because that I know where that's headed based on what I just said. But I like the fact that you know a lot about it, and I think based on everything we've been talking about, that it might be decentralized as well. Uh, the I want to send you a podcast I did with my dad and Vince Cadlebleck of Meow Wolf. Have you heard of Meow Wolf before? I think maybe we talked about it. Yeah. Okay. So Meow Wolf is basically a place in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's like basically the metaverse, a psychedelic metaverse meets Disneyland, but it's physical. So you actually go to a physical location, and it's very, very cool and strange and weird. But it's like Disneyland meets Burning Man. And so, yeah, I'm going to send you this podcast later about that, because I think there's a lot there about building that world, because that world's coming. And that is interesting, because I've never thought about it counterpositioned against the solar punk off the grid world. Because there's a version of that that's very centralized, that's very Zuckerberg, that's very those types of things. And then there's another version which is like we own the platform, like we as the network own the platform and don't have a third party involved, and that's a really interesting thing that we can do another podcast on if you're interested. But yeah, well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. And how can our listeners find out about you and Neurona?
So we have a Twitter account. It's called Neurona. The Agenda. That's the name of the AI community. Currently, we are holding monthly meetups at Crecimiento. And we will be doing some events for the Dev Connect, and also probably some boot camps with some local universities,
Hmm.
trying to uh, bring some tools for people that want to get into their AI journey,
Hmm.
and doesn't know how to do it. So yeah, we are trying to help there in whatever we can, so that more Argentinians, hopefully, and more Latin Americans, people can, get into this whole AI journey.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, Stuart. It was a pleasure.